Thank
Over to
you very
you.
much. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I think this is a really special thing for me because I've been doing a lot of Islamic geometric work for since 2013, but this is the first time that I'm doing something with you from Lahore. You are in Lahore, right?
Yeah,
um,
we are in
and
law.
that's that's the city of me and my ancestors. So yeah, it feels really nice to do something with people from Pakistan, and secondly, or first, mostly from Lahore as well. So, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. And I will start sharing, I think, my my slideshow. I also want to show you things on my desk, so there'll be a little bit of, I guess, movement between what I'm showing you. Well, hopefully, you should be able to see both when I do show you. And let's see how we go. Bismillah. I don't know how we want to handle questions, but from what I was told that we can have them at the end. But if I see anything that comes up in the Zoom chat, then I'm happy to answer it or maybe save it for later. Okay, so let us begin.
We can
I'm just
see you
gonna,
now.
okay, I'm just gonna close one thing so it's easier for me. You can always spotlight my camera if you want, just it to be me.
Yeah,
Let us begin. So, what I want to begin with is this idea that geometry is something that humans have had a relationship with and an interest in since the beginning of time. If you think of humans trying to organize themselves into how they live, where their animals go, where their family goes, where their neighbor goes, where their plants go, you're already trying to make sense of the earth. So geo meaning earth, metron from measurement, we're already making sense of our world before we even introduce numbers or anything other, other subjects in mathematics. So it's one of the oldest subjects in mathematics, and I think it's one of the most enduring. When you look back at how people practiced mathematics, the simplest of things, so this stone with its carving, if we were to actually look into it, it gives you a number that we can say is square root of 2, but we can't understand or see it. But that's what they calculated to a really correct level, to 5 decimal points that they got that correct. And this was the Babylonians, and this is many thousands of years ago. I love the fact that some of the things that were, carved into stone, into tablets, into languages that we didn't understand, number systems different to our own. So we have a decimal system in other number systems. We still have those formulas that are in our maths classrooms, whether we're in Pakistan or London or elsewhere. These are formulas that many people are familiar with. Also, from this fragment of Euclid's Elements, we might not understand the text, but perhaps the images we can make sense of. And there are elements from Euclid's Elements that we still study and learn to this day. And maths is one of those subjects that is ever growing. So there are new areas in mathematics in the last, decades. I was introduced to a new area of geometry just last month. And I was like, when did this happen? And he said it only developed in the last 5 or 10 years. So this idea that maths is growing and changing and, being added to, and yet we still can enjoy the earlier mathematics is a beautiful thing. With the old mathematics comes old tools. And I'm grateful that we still use these beautiful tools, such beautiful tools, and we use them and keep them alive. Such amazing things were constructed with the simplest of tools. And, we can work digitally now. We appreciate the world of the internet and all the digital things that are available to us, but we still appreciate analog or working with our hands. And it's this kind of legacy of who came before us. With the compass, you can draw the simplest of motifs. Maybe some of you know this as the flower of life. Is something that has been practiced throughout the world, throughout different places in the world, throughout time. Because if you have a compass, you can draw this. And from this, you can then draw many more complicated things. So have to mention circle theorems because I used to be a maths teacher. Prior to what I do now, I taught mathematics for 12, 13 years. And we used to teach this circle theorems. And what's really astounding to me is we never taught their application. We never taught why they're so important. Why do we include them still to this day? And it's only through geometry and Islamic geometry that I realized some of these circle theorems are almost like the foundations of the geometry that we do. So again, these are very old formulas and we still practice them, but the application is what leads to the patterns. So I have this as my classroom. This is one side of the wall. And I've always had an interest in art, and I'll talk a lot more about that later, and creativity. And when we came to the end of the school term and when all the exams were finished, I used to enjoy doing activities with my students where we made something called Celtic knots. So Celtic is the part of the world that is based on the United Kingdom. So from Ireland to Scotland, England and Wales, the churches here have these patterns that are interlaced, and there's a lot of stories and meaning behind them. And when you look at them visually, for example, this Celtic Dara knot, you can see how closely and visually similar it is to the column art of South India. I didn't know about this art form, but only through learning about geometry did I start learning how organized, structured, symmetrical, and how brilliant it is. But it's one of the art forms that's actually practiced predominantly by women on, special occasions in the religious calendar. They decorate the courtyard space in front of their homes. They do it with their hands. So it's one of those art forms that, it's so clearly mathematical. It's so clearly skillful to be able to lay them out so perfectly with just your hand and no measurements. Yet it's not necessarily something that's included in the vast kind of world of mathematics. So I think it's really important to kind of recognize and acknowledge all the forms of mathematics practiced. Again, different cultures have had different relationships with this thing, geometry. And you can say, so far we've just talked about 2 dimensions. Well, if you start manipulating paper, all of a sudden those 2 dimensions become 3 dimensions. And something which is really intriguing is paper folding and origami. And this is a very, I guess, untypical view of origami because it's got patterns. But, the fact that origami and the structures within it are so powerful and so useful, for example, NASA and other kind of space exploring teams wanted to figure out the best way to fold their materials that they were taking on their ships in an efficient way. So origami was something that they used to be able to manipulate, planes in 3 dimensions, such as we do in origami. And these are artworks from a friend of mine called Kamik Yodai. You might know him as Ricardo, but he's brilliant. And I wanted to show you some more of his work, from paper to 3D printers to these 3D forms of Islamic geometric patterns. So yeah, there's something in this world of geometry and pattern that makes us attracted to it, regardless of our background, our heritage, our kind of place in the world. There's a universal appeal to pattern and symmetry. So I guess we can talk a little bit about Islamic geometric patterns. I guess this is an overview. This is something that, we could go into a great deal of detail and talk, for hours about it. So you could say these patterns, they originated in the 7th century since the rise and spread of Islam. This is a really old picture of Muqla, because now it's surrounded by much taller buildings. So I guess I look back to the time when, it was a little bit more prominent. The Kaaba was a lot more prominent in these pictures. So now it seems small compared to the big towers around it. And you could say it spread. And here, this map shows some sort of spreading or idea of the Islamic world, but through the work I do, you can see that the influence is beyond these things, because although this is kind of the Islamic world, the influence the Islamic world had on other cultures and civilizations is seen through the patterns and architecture in different places beyond this greenery. So it was influenced by what came before, and nothing kind of exists in a vacuum. We don't just arrive and then exist. It's heavily influenced what came before. And you could say the two main things that existed, the two cultures, civilizations, were the Christian Byzantines and the Sassanid Persians. And I really like this right-hand picture of the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus, because here you see the gold facade, and that was the Romans that made it. And if you were able to see the detail on the columns, that has geometric patterns on it. Hold on, my mouse has disappeared. There we go. So it evolved and grew in many regions of the Islamic lands, and created by people of different faiths and languages for almost 1400 years. These are just a snippet of the variety of things that you can count under this world of Islamic geometric patterns, or Islamic art as well. Usually commissioned for or by Muslims. So that's the one kind of thing that you could say makes it Islamic. Although the debate about what we call these patterns is a very healthy argument that lives online. Why is it called Islamic? Is it from the religion? Why isn't it called Moroccan? Why isn't it called Persian? Why isn't it called, and so on and so forth. So yeah, there is so much so much richness in what we are describing. Sometimes the words we use is an oversimplification, but it's a simplification that helps us kind of approach it and understand that there is relationships between these different parts as well. So it's like an umbrella kind of term, and within it there's so much richness that is each worthy of our time and attention. You can find it in a variety of forms and contexts, both religious and non-religious. So one thing maybe people believe or have said is that, in Islamic art, you don't find any depictions of living creatures or people. And you can actually give that detail, because you won't find it in a religious setting. So you won't be able to go into a masjid and see depictions of, or iconography, the way you can in a church, but nor would you see it in a synagogue. But you would see it in a mandir or a temple. So the way that, we use these art forms in religious contexts and non-religious contexts, there's a difference. And sometimes people oversimplify Islamic art and say something like, we are not allowed to draw living creatures, so therefore that's why they did geometry. No, the living creatures were drawn by many people, but not in a religious setting. And the geometry has its own appeal. You do that because there's some inherent beauty in the geometric form, in the patterns, in the symmetry. You don't do it because you're not allowed to do something else and, oh, well, I shall do geometry. You do it because it has an appeal. So it's interesting. The conversations I have and the way people describe what I do to me can be very interesting. You can find it in architecture, rendered in wood, glass, metal, plaster, and ceramics. And these are examples from Spain. I think we live in a time where buildings have become simpler and plainer and modern and stark. And in the past, these are just two pictures of a ceiling and a wall. And you look at the richness that was there. So it's really important to value these things, because otherwise everything becomes plain, stark, and simple. And there's a space for that, but there's also space for this. You find these patterns in everyday objects and special objects. So these are objects from museums, and they're rendered in wood and glass and metal, plaster and ceramics. And we live in a time of mass production. So in the past, if you were to make a water jug or a vase or a box, you would do it in such a heightened, beautiful way. It would usually be for somebody super important. And again, created by people of different faiths and languages for almost 1400 years. This is one of my favorite examples of a minbar from Cairo. The curved woodwork and the inlay is so meticulous and so beautifully done. So this richness and this skill that we had on multiple levels. So not only on the geometry, but in the different materials such as the woodwork, the glasswork, the metal, the plaster. It's endless. The amount of skill that existed in our societies, they don't exist in the same way now. I have to add, I saw a recent picture of this being reconstructed in Cairo. It made me so happy that they are trying to recreate and invest their time and energy into reviving these art forms. Is so beautiful. Of course, we find these same things in books. So illuminating the Quran. So the frontispiece is often in gold and lapis and very, very beautiful and ornate. And then in and around the text as well. These things have existed, as soon as the Quran was put pen on paper, that became such a sacred and object to beautify and elevate. But not just in textbooks. In the Quran, you also find these illuminations which depicts life of the past. And again, this is something that not so far from Lahore, in Khiva, in Uzbekistan, and there was the great school of art in Herat in Afghanistan, and it was a place where these pictures, you could learn how to make them, the materials, the pigments, the paints. So yeah, this is again greatness that we can't imagine in places anymore. And this book, these are images of the books in Oxford in England, not anymore in Herat. This is a really beautiful detail to notice, is that this richness was so thoughtful. So, for example, these are images from the Alhambra in Spain, and you can see the text. You can see the Arabic writing, right? Right to left at the top, diagonally here. You can see it in the kind of the writing, but in and behind the writing, there's these floral motifs. And they also, in this blue and bottom right image, they also have Arabic written in them. So the Nasrid motto was Wala Ghalib ila Allah. And there is no victor but Allah. And that's something that had not only as explicitly there, but implicitly in the decorations around the calligraphy. And you can go to the Alhambra, inshallah. I hope you all do get to go. And you can see, so you can literally read it because there's so many inscriptions and they're beautiful, like poetry and stories. So rejoice in good fortune because Allah helps you. Be sparse in words and you will go in peace. That's something I should be sparse in. Okay, so I was so excited about doing something that involved Lahore. I kind of tried to find a few things from my family history that would connect me from me where I am in London to Lahore. I always think when you are a foreign-born Pakistani, that's what I am. You think I think of my existence as that much, and all the people that came before me were in another land. So it's sort of like the best of both worlds. I feel like a strong connection to London and I feel a strong connection to Lahore. And a really wonderful fact that I love is that my great-great-grandfather was called Mia Nabi Baksh. And this is a photograph of him from 1905. So this is my nani, so my mum's Dada Jan. So her grandfather. And there's a place called Nabipura, near Mughalpura, where my family are from, named after him. So we love saying this fact because it was really wonderful. Can you hear me okay? Maybe just give me a thumbs up or any emoji. Yeah, cool. Excellent. So, when I think of Lahore, I have a great fondness for this city. And if you think of my family, it's just me and my siblings and my parents. My father passed away, so just us in this country. Everybody else is in Lahore. So, you cannot deny that sort of pull of what is the motherland. So I have a great fondness for it. So my father, he passed away 2 years ago, but he was from Lahore and he was from Bhatigate, inside the walled city, which again, I feel like it's such a proud thing for me. I'm from Bazar Hakima. So I don't know, please tell me you are familiar with these places, Bhatigate and Bazaar Hakima, give me a thumbs up. These are like amazing, amazing places. And this beautiful photo or painting, sorry, is from the this time when the Sikhs ruled over Lahore. There was an exhibition in the UK about Ranjit Singh, and I loved this painting of the walled city because it was almost, you can see like how much goodness and beauty is in there. So yeah, I'm so proud of coming from Pakistan. I'm so proud of coming from Lahore. I had a DNA test. Uh, and it tells you what percentage you are from what part, and I'm like 96% from Punjab. So it makes me very happy to be that way. So, my dad, when he used to talk about his childhood, he loved telling us that he used to go to Badshahi Masjid for his Jummah namaz. And I was like, imagine this being your local masjid. So we always joked about like how he having this local masjid was just such a casual thing for him. But yeah, he was a Lahori through and through. So was my mum. She was from Mughal, which is close to Nabipura. So yeah, my parents are both from Lahore. Now, I had to also pull out some pictures from my childhood because I've been visiting Pakistan like since I was a child. When you are like born abroad, it's like you save all your money to go every few years. So the first time I remember going was 1982. So this is me and my mamus and my brothers. And I think you might have to recognize this. Is this Shahi Killa? And is this Shalimar Bagh? Like, I've forgotten which buildings are which because I haven't been for such a long time. I know they're two separate buildings because I'm wearing two different outfits. But yeah, I have Baradari. I don't know. What is Baradari? Oh my gosh. Where is it? Can you say that again? It echoed a bit. Shalimar Garden, yeah. So, Mughalpura is very close to Shalimar Garden. So we went there, I think, easily. And we also did go to other places. But yeah, Shalimar Gardens, yeah, Mughalpura. I thought Shalimar Garden was my back garden. We went so often. Okay, this is where I want to show you my sketchbook. So bear with me while I try to switch cameras. I'm going to share. One second. So I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to share something else. And again, it kind of relates to, I guess, my interests in terms of art and also my family. This camera is being a bit naughty. Oh, it's working. So I think, I have sketchbooks now that I use. And when I was very young, in one of my school classes, my teacher asked me to draw a family tree. So I did. And this is my first version of a family tree when I was a teenager. And what I used to do before I discovered Islamic geometric patterns, what I used to do is I used to just have these sketchbooks that I would take on holiday. So then on holiday, I would just draw and write anything. And one thing that happens in Pakistan is when you go out, this is something you will all relate to, I know. Somebody will tell me, my cousin, my uncle, somebody will say, Samira, we're going at 2:00. Yeah? 2:00 comes, we haven't moved. Some people aren't even ready or showered or dressed, right? So it's 3:00, it's 4:00. We go out eventually at 6:00. So when I realized this is something that happened in Pakistan, I would get ready at the time and I would get my sketchbook out and I would just draw. Okay. So all of these colored ones were often done waiting for my family to get ready. And I would just do lots of typography and so on. And then going to people's houses, I would sort of notice that when I'd go with my mum, everybody would let me say a phrase in Urdu English, "Dukh sukh bolte the." Is that a phrase? They would just speak to my parents and tell them all their troubles and everything. And I was like, there's got to be something more interesting than this, right? So then I would take my sketchbook and anybody's house I went to, I would ask them about our family. And so I basically made my family trees no matter which relative I went to. So my dad's side, look at this, it's crazy. I have 24 cousins on either side. So I would then start making and updating my family tree, as well as, while I'm waiting, make my notes. And what I really, really loved is the stories that my elders would tell me. So these are my trips to Pakistan. I've been 10 times. There is something I want to show you. So I started then looking at, this is my grandfather's children, and then this is my great grandfather. So then I started kind of, did somebody see Dinner at Gourmet? Baramazaya. You're going to recognize things. So then I started growing my family trees because of this. Like, this is my paternal great grandfather's family, and only, this information, nobody young has it. You have to sit with your elders. So if you do take an interest in these things, while you still have elders, please do kind of find your family tree. And I've done this for so many people, but yeah, it was really nice to kind of visit Pakistan. And kapre, chappals, khana. That was my little life and family. But yeah, so yeah, I wanted to show you what I did before I had my sketchbook. Yeah, it was a thing to have dinner at Gourmet, Mall Road or Kent. Do you know what? I just went wherever people told me to go. Okay, so this is another kind of old sketchbook. I kind of want to show you what I used to do before geometry. I used to love writing, so typography, I guess. And I basically started the 99 names of Allah, and I realized that my hand was always itching to do something. And I did so many, and I would maybe watch a movie and I would do this. But there's one picture in this, or one, I guess, evolution in these that shows me coming over to what you might recognize as what I do now. So this is something I did on holidays, sitting at home, just anywhere, everywhere. And sorry, it's taking a while, but I want to get to the page where I start trying to figure out Islamic geometry. It's coming, I hope. Yeah, here. So when I got to this one, I was like, what are these geometric patterns? What are they? And maybe in trying to draw them freehand, something was sparked. And I haven't finished them. That's all I've done. But this sort of, I guess, urge for creativity was always there for me. And it's something that I've always wanted to do. I'm just going to go back to my not my spreadsheet. We're in no rush. Carry on. Oh, thank you. Okay, so you can see that before, Islamic geometry became a thing, my hands are always busy trying to create. My hands are always wanting to create. So whether it was typography, whether it was figuring out like the connections to the past. So I never liked just sitting there and doing nothing. So going to somebody's house, I had my book with me and I said, can you tell me about your grandfather? Can you tell me about my grandfather? Okay, like I would find all the connections. So in 2013 is when I discovered Islamic geometric patterns. And I guess I've figured out that there's this world that exists involving things that I love. So the maths is there, the geometry and the art. And just having a flick through those 99 names of Allah project, you can see like the color, the attraction to color has always been there for me. I love color. And, I think this is something maybe many people have pondered that, when you're going through education, what is the thing that is going to be your job? And what is the thing that cannot be your job because you love it, but it has to become your hobby? And I thought that my job would be in the world of maths and art would be my hobby, like it was when I visited Pakistan, when I sketched in my books. So when I discovered Islamic geometric patterns through Adam Williamson and Richard Henry, they were my first teachers, I was like, oh, this world of geometric patterns that has this richness in so many things that I love. It's mathematical, it's creative, it's hands-on, it's meditative. You're actively doing things, not passively. It's got this religious and historical context. So I'm learning so much about us as Muslims and our heritage. It's beautiful. So, I didn't know what Mamluks were, what where Maghrib was, Al-Andalus. I didn't know about the Persians. I didn't know about all the different empires. So I've learned so much history through these patterns. Summer says, same with me. Maths is my love and art is my life. Yeah, so it's one of those things, like if, we have to work, which many of us do, if we have to earn a living, which many of us do, then what is the thing that's going to be able to become your work? And I mentioned I was a maths teacher. Before I was a maths teacher, I worked in investment banking. So investment banking, I just didn't get any satisfaction out of it. So we have this beautiful combination that has sustained me in terms of my work since 2015. So the summer of 2015, I started teaching for the first time, and it was in Morocco. And when I returned to the UK in 2016, that's when I seriously started trying to figure out how this thing that I love could become a job. And I'd only ever worked for a school or for a bank. I'd never worked for myself. So I had to figure out a lot of things. And through all of that figuring out, it's just brought me so much richness and so many beautiful opportunities. And this is, I guess, where I can show you my second sketchbook, because it's almost become an object, or dare I say a celebrity in its own right, my sketchbook, because it's a beautiful thing to be able to sketch. But I want to show you a sketchbook before the sketchbook. So yeah, I've always tried to keep a sketchbook, but they're a lot simpler, and there's blank pages, and I didn't really consider it as a whole object. I would just do a page, and so on. So this is a sketchbook I kept for a while. And then in 2025, so I guess 10 years after I started, I became a little bit more kind of serious about, starting a sketchbook. And so many artists keep so many. So this one I will do a full flick through, because even I get great joy out of seeing how my work has evolved. So everything I taught in 2015 is in this. I did have some new paints. I like notes. I love the mathematics behind the geometry. I taught with somebody called Rajan Asto. He's a brilliant geometer and has a great deal of knowledge. And so I just had to make notes from all that he shared. I wanted to fill every page. And this idea of filling a page to the very edge, I started getting a little bit addicted to. And I think this is the first page where I really thought, okay, what can I do to fill an entire page? Layer it and layer it and layer it. So you start getting more and more creative, mixing materials. And I loved this page, and I loved what it started getting me to do, which was to kind of really think about your whole double page as a spread. And this double page took me a whole day, from morning till the evening, I was working on this. And I had never done that before. So I was grateful that I had the time. And then I was really happy with the outcome. And then that kind of idea of knowing what was involved kind of became kind of a thing for me to do. This page is so interesting to me. I took this on holiday with me, and I thought, I'll do several pages. I spent 3-4 days just on this page. So, the amount of work that goes into each page can be so many hours, and I think it is worth it in the end. And yeah, again, you can see how I'm trying to experiment. And these experiments in my sketchbook, they're not planned. They just evolve from one to the other. So if you have an art practice, just let each stage happen, and let your processes happen, let your processes develop, so that you can try and experiment, you can see how it changes, you can go in your own direction. I think too many times people want to get to the end result, and perhaps, if we just realize that we each are very individual. This I was using gouache. So there was a tutorial online where this person, Liz Kiss Studio, she did gouache and layered it, but it's floral. So this is the first time I did anything which was not geometric. And I did it whilst listening to a book, and the painting finished and the book carried on. So I just layered it. But I wanted to do something in her style. So I used that to do this, and it just developed into something else. yes, we must be playful with our basic pattern to form something new and interesting. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm really keen that we all develop our own ways of doing things. And the only way, there's no shortcut to it. You just got to do and practice and keep practicing and invest in your processes because it will help. But yeah, then, this one led to this one. And this is a page that was really ugly, I promise you, in the middle of it. And then it got more and more beautiful when I started worrying less. So I thought, what happens if I just paint it all with slightly brown water? And then it became almost like a faded, glowing, even more beautiful. So I definitely appreciated having kind of that space to change and grow. And this took so many times. Yeah, I've got some tips here. Keep the orientation of the drawing. For your sketchbook, experiment, play, create, low pressure, high creativity. This is a really interesting thing. Low pressure, high creativity. Let yourself create. Like, let yourself just get on with whatever you want to do. Don't have too much of an idea because you'll end up being very creative. For color swatching, layout, and plan, just start. If you do have something to evolve and prove, if not, you have nothing. So yeah, if you don't actually draw anything, if you're waiting for perfect conditions, you've done nothing, right? But if you just start, you have something to build on. You have something to improve. This is Khadi paper. This is another thing of mine. I would say utilize what's available to you. So you're in Pakistan, I'm in the UK. This company is based in the UK, although they import everything from India. So what paper, handmade cotton rag paper can you find? What sketchbooks can you find in your world, or are not so expensive for you to buy on, I don't know, the internet or, so just take a moment to figure out what you can buy and utilize what you have. I know that we have an international world, but not everyone can access what I can access. So I know some people have bought this sketchbook in USA and it was so expensive and I couldn't believe they'd pay that much for it. So yeah, try to see if you can find equivalences of good watercolor paper, of good handmade paper, wherever you might be in the world. This is another nice, so Duleep Singh, he has a house in Elvedon Hall, Suffolk, England. And it was so unexpected to find such a Mughal masterpiece in England. But yeah, this pattern inspired me. This is the last page for this sketchbook that I loved. Then I did some teaching, so it was different. But yeah, this one I have to explain. So from the left-hand side, you can see the squares are kind of fading and becoming more prominent. And from underneath, there's these hexagons. Sorry, 6-pointed stars, not hexagons. So I try to merge the two patterns. Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you trust yourself. Oh, where's that comment gone? It was a really good one. It's amazing. Oh, it's amazing what happens when you trust yourself. Every page tells its own story. Yeah, I do think, like individual creativity comes from our individual selves. So it's important to kind of value that. No two of us are the same. So if we can just give our voice time to grow and our style to grow, then you'll discover something amazing. Okay, right. So this is the thing. So I've been doing this for how many years? Since 2016. So 10 years. Alhamdulillah, I've been able to turn it into my job and I've been able to earn a living from this. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that because I think sometimes people think they know what I do, but maybe it's not all visible. So social media is a big part of what I do because it's almost like a portfolio. It kind of gives you a sense of my style, my personality, my way of teaching, what I'm doing, and so on. I just seen a good question. You mentioned that self-care is often taught theoretically. Could you please explain? Maybe at the end I can show you. Yeah, I'll show you an example. So let's pin that question and we'll come back to it. Okay, so this little diagram I drew for when I show school children what I do, because I think if I was at school and somebody was showing me that there's this world can exist. So social media has a bad reputation. It's addictive. It can be full of lies and, misrepresenting your life. But it does allow you to find and connect with people that are like-minded. So I used my social media. And then secondarily, I sort of built on my YouTube channel. I did invest and I still don't invest a lot of time in it. The time I did invest in it was when I used to do weekly tutorials, animations. And then that turned into, in lockdown, doing some real kind of substantial tutorials, because I realized what I teach and what I do, it's not accessible for everybody. I'm based in London. So how can somebody learn from me? So putting materials and tutorials online became really important to me, because I consider myself like a link in a chain of knowledge, and we're just passing it on to other people, the next generation, keeping this thing alive, this thing that we should be so proud of as our heritage as Muslims from whatever part of the world we are, and just our heritage as humanity. So I teach many people, not all of them are Muslim, and they have great sense of trying to preserve and learn this knowledge. So doing that online, either free or cheaply, became like a big incentive and priority for me, because I saw that there wasn't anything really that great online. So I tried to fill that gap. And because I've got this teaching background, I had confidence in my ability to teach, because I'd been teaching for 13 years and I taught other people how to teach as well. So I had developed those skills over the years. So YouTube, definitely, I don't invest any time in. Udemy was the first place I did online recorded courses. Patreon is what I do now. So if you're not familiar, it's basically a monthly subscription to me, and then I teach you a different pattern each month. So again, trying to keep it affordable. It's $5 per month. But again, I know that's not affordable for everybody, because, $5 can mean so much in different parts of the world. And I know what inflation's like in Mengai, in all these different, places. So keeping things free is still a thing I have. And Fourth Wall allows me to sort of repackage and resell what I've done. I love doing things online, but the thing that is really enjoyable is teaching in person. So this bottom section is what I started in 2016. So I teach at these 3 and sometimes more venues, and I've been doing that monthly almost since 2016. So you kind of build up a community, you build up a practice, you build up kind of an enjoyment of teaching in person, and it's something I still do. And I've got one tomorrow at Cass Arts in Kingston, which is South London, so not so far from me. So putting your things online, it has value. And let's see, it also allows other people to see what you do. So when other people see what you do, then I can end up working with other people. So lockdown was a huge kind of valuable thing for me, because it allowed me to work with a whole bunch of people that I've never worked with before. And some of them were names that I have admired for years. So I've always loved the V&A Museum, the Wallace Collection, and these places I'd been to before. And so to work with them was really, really beautiful. And it allows me to travel as well. So, alhamdulillah, that this is kind of, opportunities that come my way. I feel very blessed. If there are questions that I don't answer immediately, we can come back to them at the end. We have time, inshallah. So like I said, people see what I do, and then they can see in their world or their work. So, I don't know how your email is or your inbox, but my inbox and my emails are really interesting sometimes, because I get some amazing propositions. So one of the best things that happened to me was for Ramadan and Eid in 2024. I got contacted by Porsche Middle East. They asked me to become the artist of that year. Alhamdulillah. And I provided them with 12 artworks. I work by hand and I had to work digitally. I worked with their creative team, and they took my designs and just did so many beautiful things with them. So they became the backdrop to their kind of promotional work and their showrooms and their social media for Ramadan. There's something called the Porsche Cafe. Who knew there was a cafe dedicated to the Porsche? I'd never seen my artwork this big. So I was blown away. I was so grateful. They flew me to Dubai to record a video, and it was a very nice thing. I have to tell you one funny little thing. When you look at this pattern, there's one circle here. I don't know if you can see it. That doesn't belong. This circle And I don't even know why I added it in. There's no reason for it to be there. I just thought it'd look nice. And it wasn't actually accurate. So when you go right up to that picture, you can see the gap. And I was like, why did I put that circle in there? Had I known that they would make it so big, I would have maybe not made it that big. So this cafe was just surrounded by my images in their work. So it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to kind of be able to experience that. I live in Northolt, so I don't know if anyone's familiar with London, but London's a big city, like Lahore, but on the outskirts. So we have zones. So there's a central zone, zone one. If you go out to the very outer edges, there's zone six. Northolt is in zone five on the west of London. And this is this library that I've known all my life, and it now has my artwork on it, part of a project to bring public art into Northolt. So I was so excited to put like my artwork, my painting blown up, and it's basically it's printed onto this sticky laminate, and then that's adhered to the surface. So that was a real beautiful project, and it's still up to this day. And I feel happy every time I go past it because it's where I live. Another project that came my way was Leighton House Museum. So there was a 19th century Englishman called Frederick Leighton, and he lived in an area called Kensington, which is a very expensive, beautiful area in London. And he had his house almost evolve and change as he grew as an artist. So he did a range of art, but he was especially interested in the kind of the Middle East, Turkey, Syria, and Egypt. And he brought over tiles and objects from other parts of the world, and he made something called the Arab Hall. So the history of some of these things, the way that the British, we know very well in Pakistan, how the British took from India and Pakistan, and, you know, the wealth and so much beauty, Kohinoor diamond, you know, all sorts of things. We know this history. But in modern day, in 2026, the way that the people who run this museum want to tell these stories and not pretend it didn't happen is really beautiful. So they're trying to kind of depict history correctly. And one of the things they asked me to do was to design, I have to say, I didn't design it. I just provided the design, for the grill outside. So this grill was the grill that was, the fountain that used to be inside. So in Lord Leighton's lifetime, it became outside. So this cover is a design from Iran. And I chose it because I think it doesn't look like it's from Iran. It could be from Turkey, it could be from Syria, it could be from Uzbekistan, it could be from multiple places. And that's what the Arab Hall is. It's not necessarily one place that makes the Arab Hall. So I wanted to link it to that. So yeah, I chose the design, I constructed it digitally, and then it was rendered in metalwork. I made a video about that. And then a TV program in the UK called George Clark's Beautiful Bills asked me to make this screen for somebody's garden. And so that was, again, a really beautiful thing that they saw something I'd done and thought how it could work for their TV program. So that was really lovely to see. I also was quite bold when so I think you probably know what Qawwali music is, and it's something that many Pakistanis have enjoyed throughout their lives. We know the work of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan and now Rahat Fateh Ali Khan, and many, many kind of Qawwali groups exist, and we listen to them. But I've always loved that because my parents loved it, and I love the long 15, 20-minute Qawwalis that just kind of ease into and slowly build and build and build, and you can really kind of find yourself getting lost in them. But there's something called orchestral qawwali, and it's a kind of type of music that combines sort of a European orchestra with qawwali. And I think I'm very fussy about how these things are done, and I think it's done beautifully. So I wrote to them as a fan, lots of typos in this message, and I then got a reply. So I was able to work with the orchestral qawwali, and it's again of one thing led to another, I'm just checking the time. We're okay. I think we're okay. But yeah, this is the Royal Albert Hall, and it was absolute beautiful to see kind of the concert there, but then to have my work there at the concert and in the archive is really nice. I worked with the orchestral Qawwali, Rushil and Abby, on their album as well. So I provided artwork for their records. And then when they had A.R. Rahman come in April, and he's a giant in Bollywood and in South Asia. We all know music by A.R. Rahman. So to kind of have my artwork behind him on his shoulder was really special for me. And then they used the artwork for their upcoming concerts as well. Again, working with people, they see what you can do in their world. So the Royal Albert Hall asked me if I'd like to have an exhibition there. So of course I said yes, but the time was really short. So just this Ramadan, I painted all of the paintings except 3 in that time period. Ramadan is one of those times when I try not to work. So I had a lot of hours to just paint every day, in between like praying, in between Quran, in between everything. All I did was paint. So it was really enjoyable. And then this is where the exhibition ended up. I then, had these paintings. So then I took my exhibition to a place I teach, which is called Open Ealing. So the exhibition had a second outing, and inshallah in April it's going to have a third outing, in August, in another place in London. Hopefully we can get it sorted. So yeah, it's really nice to have, these things. But my and maybe our fascination with geometry is quite sort of specific. We kind of often try to figure out why do we have this fascination. And I think I'm going to end with maybe a couple of reasons why that we have this fascination with geometry. Why is it that since humans have existed, we've been wanting to make patterns? So this idea, one thing to consider is the art of ornamentation, al-zakhrafa. So this idea of beautifying, embellishing, making gold and ornamenting our objects, our lives, so you can beautify your environment, your building, your garden, your books, your clothes. Sometimes it can be, seen as too much of a thing, maybe showing off, but it is definitely a concept that exists in Islam and is mentioned in the Quran of beautifying sacred art. So I don't know, when my parents were young and when I was young, my parents used to write home at the top of a letter, they used to write 786. And that was in place of writing Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, because this was like the abjad number or numerology for a phrase that we say but is too long to write. So this is something that you could say, some patterns, when you count up some of the repetition, it can have this meaning that relates to abjad numbers and relates to verses from the Quran, or sort of ayats or different things that relate to something from our faith. But this is something that is maybe in some traditions, but not universally across all traditions. So this can account for some of the artwork that we see. So cosmological and astrological symbolism built into the patterns. I think one of the things that I think is there's this universality of geometry. It's this idea that mathematics in space, we're uncovering universal and reoccurring truths observable on different scales. So we can find geometry at a macro level. The moon is somewhere in the sky right now, and it has a pattern and an orbit that we can then kind of follow monthly. The movement of other celestial bodies, we can really see what's going on in our solar system if we just observe it. And these are patterns and cycles that kind of dictate our life. At a micro level, the structure of an organism, when you look at it, of a cell, of crystals under a microscope, you see patterns and you see symmetry. I had the pleasure of a crystallographer come to my class once. It was just recent, and I heard about crystallographers saying that they, under a microscope, the patterns that we draw, you can see in crystals. And I was like, I don't know if that's true or if it's like a myth. And she showed me so many photos on her phone that kind of showed exactly that. So yeah, at sort of a huge scale. We can see the kind of different orbits of patterns, different objects in our orbit. We can see it at a sort of hour level in plants and in objects in nature. And we can even see it under a microscope. This left image is chalk. You know what you write with on a chalkboard? Imagine that's what it looks like. We know about snowflakes, and these are, you're going to have to believe me, nuclear pore complexes. I don't know what those words mean, but under a microscope, it has meaning for us because we can see the symmetry in the pattern. Okay. That is all I wanted to share. Let me see if I can stop sharing and maybe we can take some questions.
Now I'll request that you go to the chat box, choose the question which you want to answer. You asked me to pin a special question which I've already pinned for you, and then go to the questions and answer them.
Tika. Okay, is the pinned one at the top or at the bottom? I can't see. Let me just scroll up, I'll find it. Okay, so the sketchbook I mentioned is Khadi paper, but I'm gonna see what you can find. Like see if you can find handmade paper in the place you live, easily accessible. Is probably better. Let me see. I'm recently doing Islamic biomorphic patterns with geometric patterns. It turns out stunning, though it takes time and a huge practice. Yeah, so biomorphic patterns. So that's questions or statement from Summer. What you're thinking is that, when we draw geometric patterns, we're using tools, compass, ruler, and we're using the tools to get our accuracy. When you're doing biomorphic or floral patterns, you're having to train your hand a lot more. So it's more time consuming. It takes a lot more practice, and you probably want to do drills and practice the same way you would do when you learn calligraphy, when you learn writing, of any language. It takes a lot more practice to train your hand. So geometry, we have tools that help us, but with floral biomorphic patterns, calligraphy, you have to train your hand. So that's a lot more practice, and I think it takes a lot of devotion. So again, you mentioned the circle theorems are often taught only theoretically with very little practical application. Could you please explain how these theorems can be applied in practice, particularly in the construction of Islamic geometric patterns? Let me see if I can show you something for that. I'm going to just close the chat for a second and open up my camera and see if I can draw you something quickly. Okay, let's see what I can show you. I might have to sketch something, so you're going to have to forgive that it's a little bit inaccurate, but we'll see. So when you are drawing geometric patterns, one thing that you need to do is you need to take your space and you need to be able to divide it into equal parts, right? So I'm going to just draw a sketch like this. Okay, so this is 8. Now, there is a circle theorem. Let me draw it on the back here. I feel like I'm sketching everywhere. Or maybe I'll just draw it here. There is a circle theorem. One of them where it says the angle at the center. The angle at the center is double the angle at the circumference. So this is the angle at the circumference, and this is the angle at the center. Okay? So if I pick this point anywhere else on the circumference, I would get half of that angle. So how is that useful for us? So say I'm drawing something, it's divided into 8, and I want to divide it into, I have a ruler, I'm going to use it. I want to divide it into even less. You can use the circle theorem to show you that this angle is now 1/16 and this is 1/8. So you can use circle theorems to take your grid and subdivide it further and further. And I don't think this application is ever taught with circle theorems. It's only us geometers that take an interest in application. And this is just one of the circle theorems. The other one that I picked out also has its application, but yeah, I don't want to draw terribly again, so I'll leave that there. Okay, so let me just stop sharing that. Okay, let's go back to the questions. Okay, okay, salam. Okay, what is a good resource to learn about the mathematics behind particular patterns? That's a good question, actually. I would say you don't need to. The geometry is the mathematics. What you want to do is learn from people who will explain why and what you're doing. So please don't think that there's this other maths, right, that exists for us to do the geometry. The geometry is the maths, okay? And sometimes you can find interesting facts about it. But if you have your compass and your ruler and your pencil, that is mathematics. It will be interesting to you to know that there's certain angles that occur in a certain family. So, for example, if I draw an eightfold pattern, everything will be multiples of 22.5, which is, I guess, 1/4 of 90 degrees. So, you know, you are able to do all of the geometry. You're able to learn everything, but you don't necessarily have to know some secret layer of maths. There are proportions and ways to learn things. So that kind of methodical, correct way of constructing things, that goes hand in hand with the construction. It kind of explains why you're doing what you're doing. Does that make sense? So the people that I recommend learning from, let me list a whole bunch of people. So Amit Hinducha, he's known as Ambigraph. I've learned a great deal from him. His teacher or his counterpart is Dawood Sutton. I've learned a great deal from him. Alan Adams, Sarah Ikizlia Sonmez. So what I like about these people that I've learned from is how they explain things, and kind of in harmony can take you to complexity. So it's not necessarily that there's a hidden layer of mathematics. It's hand in hand with the drawing. Who have I missed? So Alan, Rajan, Amit. Yeah, so these are the kind of the people I've learned from. There are some Persian artists that I've learned from as well. So if you were to go on my website to the fivefold patterns, you'd see I list anybody I've learned from there. There's many people who don't practice anymore, and there's so many people who practice it that it's too hard for me to keep up with those and review and do those. So I kind of stick to who has taught me and can reliably kind of talk about them. Huda asks, you recently held an exhibition. Kindly share the experience. Well, I showed some of the pictures, but it was wonderful. What I really loved was how people were so proud of me. So like, you know, family and friends and my aunties, because, you know, like, as a Muslim, as a woman, you know, as Pakistani, we have expectations on what our life should be. Like, for example, getting married, having children, and da-da-da-da-da. And if you don't fit those criterias, then, you know, what's your value? So, you know, like, what I was so appreciative is that all these elder generations were so proud of this work that I do. So, kind of emotional. So I really appreciated how, yeah, that was... Okay, mom, I really find that phrase a bit odd because we don't use it in the UK. You can call me Samira, by the way. It's not disrespectful to me. I still construct all my grids by hand and enjoy the process. I also use AutoCAD to deepen understanding of geometric patterns. When do you recommend starting to use tracing beta and drawing everything manually? I do both. Like I call it fuller construction. And I do that. And I also use tracing paper. So one of the reasons why I might use tracing paper is when time is limited. So when I'm teaching, I only have 3 hours. So I have to teach them how to draw the pattern. And I think many of them enjoy painting it. So therefore, yeah, using tracing paper just kind of expedites the process and makes it a little bit quicker. So you need to probably find and figure out what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And you can then figure out what your like processes, and do what you enjoy. But don't think that there's a way you should be doing something that somebody else is doing. They're doing it how they enjoy it. I'll do it how I enjoy it. That's what I teach. And I have taught people who don't like painting at all, right? It's not in their thing. They love the drawing. So then they would come to my classes and just draw. I'm not going to say to them, oh, excuse me, you need to be painting. No. So whatever you enjoy, whatever processes that you want to deepen your experience with, continue, continue, continue. And however you want to enhance it, yeah, please do. Are you planning for a book of your patterns for learning, or is there any book of yours that already that we can purchase online from learning from you? Thank you, Sabahat. No, I don't have a book, but I do have Patreon, and it can become a book, I think, at some point. So for my exhibition, for every painting, I had this big kind of a information board, and I was like, oh, this is basically the beginnings of a book. So yeah, at some point, inshallah, I hope an opportunity comes my way. I'm not going to force it to happen. I'm not going to take it on my own. I think it needs the right people to help me. So if that comes my way, I'd be glad to do that. But if it doesn't, then alhamdulillah, whatever comes my way is fine. Aisha, when are you showcasing your precious work in Lahore? I don't know, inshallah. That's all I can say. You know, when so Dr. Sarah Bikisli Ahmed went to Pakistan, I was so happy for her because I was like, oh my God, you're in my mother city. And she, you know, like it was so nice to see like all that you all do in Pakistan. Because I'll tell you one comparison I made when I went to Pakistan in 2014. So much has changed since then. I went to Wazir Khan Masjid, and the walls were not in a great condition. Carpets were rolled up, piles of things were here, there. It was not looked after. And I compared that to the masjids in Morocco, where it was looked after. And I felt really sad. I was like, oh my gosh, we have such a rich heritage in Pakistan. We have immensely, immensely rich heritage in Pakistan. Okay. Do we value it? Can we value it? How can we make sure we value it? So the work that you are doing, in a small way, in a big way, all is like for me, like a dream scenario that the heritage of Pakistan is being celebrated and practiced and enjoyed. And now when I see pictures of Wazir Khan Masjid in Lahore, I'm like, whoa, this is looking beautiful. So I think that kind of investment is there.
Yes, you'll be happy to know that quite a lot of investment has been done on restoration, and it is quite better now.
Yeah, I see, because you know social media is so good at showcasing these things. So I see people making their beautiful videos of these places, and it makes me so proud. So, you know, alhamdulillah that people have recognized that it needs to be done, because yeah, if we don't look after it, then who will? So yeah, it's it's really beautiful to see. Mahin, okay, Mahin, I would say that the project that I'm working on now is the most significant one, because for the first time, I'm doing something that will end up in architecture on a building in a permanent way, and I've never done that. So all the time I've been working, I never thought, you know, like you can see behind me, it's just paper. I just thought, how do I actually get these patterns that I draw into architecture? I don't know architects. I have no connections in that world, but I was contacted by somebody I worked with previously. It wasn't successful, but they found me again, and then I went through a process. So near me, there's going to be a big new station, and one of the buildings in the station complex, inshallah, will have some geometry on it. Yeah. And I'm really excited, because I tell you one thing, when I see geometry in architecture, I'm very, very fussy and opinionated about whether it's right or whether it's wrong. Like I'm not polite. I just say, oh, yeah, you know, ye kya hai? What have they done? This is terrible. So now I realized I'm in a position where somebody might be able to criticize my work. And I was like, oh, this is a lot of pressure. So I'm going to try and make sure I do the best possible thing I can, and yeah, I just pray that it turns out well. Yeah, so that's my current project that I isn't finished,
Beautiful
but it's really exciting.
Architecture and geometry.
Sorry?
It's a beautiful combination, architecture and geometry together.
Yeah, it's like the most ancient combination, right? If you think back, I think of Aztecs, I think of Egyptians, I think of Babylonians. They all had pattern in their architecture. They always beautified their buildings. And I think, you know, the Muslim and the Islamic architecture takes it even to a more amazing level. And when we look at modern buildings, they can be so boring. And I'm like, why? So yeah, we've lost something in the centuries since the golden era. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, thank you so much, Samira. It was such a wonderful time to have with you. Everybody, I'm sure, enjoyed it, and we really appreciate that you spared your time
Yes.
for us,
Yes.
and hopefully that sometime you are able to come to Pakistan and we meet you here in person again.
Yeah. Now,
It was a real
can I
honor to
just
meet
say,
you
yeah,
last year
I want to say
in
thank you
Fujairah.
to you for organizing it. And I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to people I know have a similar interest to me in, my country, Pakistan. And, yeah, it's been really lovely. I was telling my mum about it and she was very excited. She goes, "Maine bhi aana hai." I said, "Ammi Jan, you won't enjoy it. It's me just talking about the things I like." So yeah, it makes me proud. Thank you to Hast-o-Neest. Thank you to Farid and to you as well. Tanya?
It was
I forgot
pleasure
your name.
interacting with you again, and
Yeah, so
hopefully sometime again we'll have a similar session after
yeah,
some time,
and if
right?
I come to Lahore, I'm finding you all. I'll come and find you
Yes,
and inshallah
the
we'll do
most.
something. Because going to Pakistan is not me just going to Pakistan to visit the monuments. No, no, no. It's visiting all my relatives, all my many cousins, 24 cousins on each side. Imagine their families, and then all the khana pina and the shopping. So it's a
I
lot.
know,
So
I know,
yeah.
I know. I can understand. I
Thank
can
you.
understand. Well, thank you so much, Samira. It was such a wonderful time with you,
It
and
was.
hopefully that we have a similar session again after some time.
Inshallah.
Extremely grateful.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much, and thank you
Why
very
did I
much
do
for
that?
participants for being here with us today.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank you,
very much.
everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Khuda Hafiz. Khuda
Allah
Hafiz.
Hafiz.
Khuda
Allah
Hafiz.
Hafiz.